set the book in Hounslow, or I set large chunks of the book in Hounslow because I grew up here, I know the area, I went to school just sort of that way, which means nothing, I know, but anyway. I did all my research here when I decided that I wanted to do my uni dissertation on the Asian rude boy scene. I did all the research here. Basically, Hounslow is really important because it's a middle class suburb. We've got Heathrow Airport not very far that way, and because of Heathrow Airport there's loads of companies here with their corporate headquarters, so there's lots of money pouring in, which means it's not a ghetto, even though there's a it's a huge ethnic mix, and there are a lot of and there is a lot of hardship in parts of Hounslow. Thanks to the airport, it has this really interesting balance of being a middle class suburb, and the characters in the book live in 5-bedroom houses, and yet they have this kind of edge because they feel like part of it is just the scene, and part of it is just trying to be hard men, that they try and pretend like they're living in a ghetto, and it seems to have created this kind of hotbed of creativity here, right? I mean, we've got loads of Desi beats bands and DJs coming out of here, stand-up comedians, actors, you name it. There's lots of interesting stuff going on. Mostly though it's musical. Lots of sound systems started out here. It's kind of midway between central London and the Midlands, and it works really well. It's a really interesting place, and like I said, the most important thing in the book is that it's not a ghetto, it's a middle class suburb. It's changed a lot since I was at school here. It's also changed a lot since I did the research here and started writing the novel when I was 25. The most obvious thing is that they've pedestrianised the high street, so you don't get any of that. Basically, you don't get any of that cruising up and down in Ford Capris with the windows open and Bungra blasting out. So that's the main difference. There's we're just walking around earlier today, and there's luxury flats springing up, and one of the big scenes in the book is set in the BMX track. There used to be this derelict BMX track at the down towards Isleworth, where a lot of fights used to happen. When I was doing the research, I used to go down there and see lots of fights between it would be like orchestrated fights, like almost like the sort of rumbles of that Etty Hinton was writing about in The Outsiders and Rumblefish, but again, not quite so hardcore, because these are just middle class mummy's boys trying to be hard men. Anyway, the BMX track is now just completely gone, and but the main thing that's changed in Hounslow is this identity, this British Asian identity. It's not so much now about being a hard boy, rude boy. It's more of a subculture now, which is why the music's so important. That by sort of looking in at ourselves and in the early 90s and developing what looked like quite an aggressive scene, very kind of anti-integration, aggressive macho scene, is sort of chilled out a lot in recent years, and now it's more of a subculture. It's like it's like punk or gothic rock or whatever. It's just a subculture. It's the Desi subculture. We have our own radio stations and films and music and magazines that go with it, and it's much more chilled out. And because it's a subculture, there's a lot more racial integration now. A hell of a lot more racial integration now than there was in the 1990s, which is why I never understand it whenever I pick up a newspaper these days and people go on about this lack of racial integration and multiculturalism not working. Well, you should have come around here in the 90s, then you would have seen a lack of integration. Now it's really interesting, and I think the reason is because Asian kids around Hounslow have developed something that they're really proud of, and it's an identity that even mainstream Britain is totally in love with. Like, we've seen the BBC completely or you know, the BBC is completely in love with putting out with output catering to this subculture, and we've seen it on the West End, we've seen it everywhere, we've seen it on the High Street. So I think that's the big change.